There's an ancient story rarely discussed today, a story about a color, not a weapon, not a treasure, not a secret document, a color. And according to old traditions, some of history's wisest leaders deliberately surrounded themselves with it before making important decisions. They believed it sharpened perception, calmed the mind, and helped them see what others could not. Now, whether every detail of these stories is historically accurate is not the point. The lesson hidden within them may be far more important. Because in a world filled with distraction, confusion, noise, and constant pressure, clear thinking has become one of the rarest forms of wealth. And that is where our story begins. There was once a young advisor who served a powerful ruler. The ruler was respected throughout the region. His kingdom prospered. His decisions seemed wise. His judgment appeared unusually clear. The advisor spent years observing him, trying to understand his secret. Eventually, he noticed something strange. Before every important meeting, before every major negotiation, before every difficult decision, the ruler changed into a particular robe. Always the same color, always the same ritual. The advisor found this peculiar, because the ruler owned garments of every kind. Yet, when clarity mattered most, he chose only one. Curiosity eventually overcame him. One evening he asked, "Master, why do you always wear that color before making important decisions?" The ruler smiled, but did not answer immediately. Instead, he led the advisor into a quiet chamber. The room was simple. No decorations, no distractions, no luxury, only silence. Then he pointed toward the robe. The color itself is not the secret. The advisor looked confused. The ruler continued, "The secret is what it reminds me to become." Now listen carefully, because this lesson has survived for generations. The ruler explained that many people make decisions while emotionally disturbed, angry, fearful, impatient, anxious, jealous, proud. And when emotions dominate, clarity disappears. The robe served as a reminder, a signal, a ritual, a moment of transition. Whenever he wore it, he remembered to slow down, to observe, to think, to separate emotion from truth. The advisor listened carefully, because this was not what he expected. He thought the robe possessed special power. The ruler shook his head. The power is not in the color. The power is in the state of mind. The advisor remained silent, because he sensed there was something deeper still, something the ruler had not yet revealed. Then the ruler looked directly at him. And there's a reason this particular color was chosen. The advisor felt his heart race, because the explanation would reveal a forgotten principle about the human mind, a principle that ancient leaders understood well, and one that modern people desperately need to remember. But first, the advisor would have to learn why most people lose clarity before they ever make a decision. The advisor could not stop thinking about the ruler's words. The power is not in the color. The power is in the state of mind. For days, those words echoed within him. Finally, he returned to the ruler. "Master," he asked, "if the color is not the source of clarity, why did ancient leaders care about it all?" The ruler smiled, because now the advisor was asking the right question. Without speaking, he led him to a lake just beyond the palace walls. The water was perfectly still. The ruler pointed toward its surface. "What do you see?" "My reflection." The ruler nodded. Then he picked up a stone and dropped it into the water. Ripples spread instantly. The reflection disappeared. "What do you see now?" The advisor looked. "Nothing clearly." The ruler smiled. "Exactly. Now listen carefully. Ancient wisdom taught that the human mind behaves much like water. When it is calm, it reflects truth. When it is disturbed, everything becomes distorted." The ruler explained that most poor decisions are not caused by a lack of intelligence. They are caused by internal turbulence, fear, anger, greed, impatience, envy, pride. These emotions create ripples in the mind, and when the mind becomes agitated, people stop seeing clearly. The advisor nodded slowly, because he had experienced this himself. How many times had he made decisions while angry? How many times had he spoken too quickly? How many times had fear convinced him to avoid opportunities? The ruler continued, Most people believe they need better answers, but often they simply need a quieter mind. The advisor stood silently, because those words carried unusual weight. Then the ruler revealed something surprising. The color ancient leaders chose was often associated with stillness, with depth, with observation, with wisdom. It reminded them not to react immediately, not to be controlled by emotion, not to rush, but to pause, observe, reflect, and only then decide. The ruler then told a story. There was once a king who made every decision instantly. He considered speed a strength. His advisors admired his confidence. His enemies feared his decisiveness. But over time, his kingdom weakened, because fast decisions are not always wise decisions. One day an elder visited him and said, "The quickest mind is not always the clearest." At first the king ignored him. Years later he understood, because many of his greatest mistakes have been made in moments when he felt most certain. The advisor listened carefully. The lesson was becoming clearer. True wisdom was not merely knowing what to do. It was knowing when not to act. Then the ruler's expression became serious. There is one enemy of clarity more dangerous than all the others. The advisor looked up. What enemy? The ruler stared across the lake. The one that convinces people they are already seeing clearly. The advisor felt a chill, because somehow he knew this lesson would be different. And what the ruler revealed next would explain why intelligent people often make disastrous decisions, without realizing they're doing so. A trap so subtle that even leaders, kings, and scholars throughout history have fallen into it. The advisor could not stop thinking about the ruler's warning. The most dangerous enemy of clarity is the one that convinces people they are already seeing clearly. Those words unsettled him, because they seemed true. The next morning, he sought out the ruler once again. "Master," he said, "how can a person know when their judgment has become distorted?" The ruler did not answer. Instead, he handed the advisor a polished mirror. "Tell me what you see." "My reflection." The ruler nodded. Then he breathed onto the surface. The mirror fogged instantly. "What do you see now?" The advisor squinted. "A blurred image." The ruler smiled. "Did your face change?" "No." "Then what changed?" "The mirror." The ruler nodded again. "Now listen carefully. Ancient wisdom teaches that reality is often less distorted than our perception of it. The problem is that most people spend their lives trying to fix a reflection without addressing the fog." The advisor listened carefully. The ruler continued. "Fear creates fog. Pride creates fog. Anger creates fog. Desperation creates fog. Attachment creates fog. When these forces dominate the mind, people begin mistaking emotion for truth, and that is where dangerous decisions begin." The ruler then told a story. There was once a leader who became obsessed with proving himself right. At first, his confidence appeared admirable, but over time, he stopped listening, stopped questioning, stopped reflecting. Anyone who disagreed became an enemy. Anyone who challenged him became a threat. Eventually, he surrounded himself with people who only told him what he wanted to hear. And slowly, his judgment deteriorated. The advisor nodded, because he had seen similar things happen before. The ruler then revealed something surprising. The greatest leaders were not those who trusted themselves blindly. They were those who questioned themselves honestly. Silence filled the air, because that lesson was deeper than it first appeared. Many people believe confidence means certainty. Ancient leaders believed confidence meant remaining calm enough to examine uncertainty. The ruler then picked up the robe once more. For the first time, the advisor noticed something. The color resembled the deep sky, just before nightfall. Calm, steady, vast. The ruler smiled. Ancient leaders chose this color because it reminded them of depth. Depth before reaction. Depth before judgment. Depth before action. The advisor finally began to understand. The robe was not about appearance. It was about awareness. Then the ruler's expression became serious. There is one final lesson. The most important lesson of all. The advisor felt his heart race, because he sensed that everything he had learned so far was leading to this moment. The lesson that explained why some people remain clear-minded during chaos, while others lose themselves completely. And according to ancient wisdom, The answer had nothing to do with intelligence. The sun was setting. Golden light stretched across the kingdom. The advisor and the ruler stood overlooking the valley below. For a long time, neither spoke. Finally, the ruler broke the silence. "Tell me what you've learned." The advisor thought carefully. The color was never magic. The robe was never the source of wisdom. The real purpose was to create a state of mind. The ruler smiled. "You are beginning to see." Then he asked one final question. "What separates a wise leader from a foolish one?" The advisor considered many possible answers. Knowledge, experience, strength, power, but none felt complete. The ruler shook his head. "No." Then he pointed toward the horizon. "The wise leader sees clearly." Now listen carefully. Ancient wisdom never claimed that great leaders knew everything. In fact, many understood the opposite. They knew how much they did not know. That humility protected them. It kept their minds open, their judgment flexible, their perception clear. The ruler explained that clarity is not about having more information. It is about removing distortion. Because confused mind can possess knowledge and still make poor decisions. But a clear mind often sees solutions hidden from everyone else. The advisor finally understood why ancient leaders valued rituals, why they paused before major decisions, why they created reminders, why they wore certain colors. The colors symbolized calm observation, patience, depth, reflection, and, perhaps most importantly, the ability to pause. The ruler then revealed the final secret. Most mistakes happen when people react. Most wisdom appears when people reflect. The advisor stood silently, because suddenly, countless moments from his own life made sense. Times when impatience created problems. Times when fear distorted reality. Times when emotion disguised itself as truth. The ruler continued. The world moves quickly, but clarity often arrives slowly. Those words settled deeply within him. The sky above had now become the same color as the ancient robe. A deep blue, calm, steady, expansive. The advisor smiled. For the first time, he truly understood. The color itself was never the secret. The secret was what it represented. A mind that remains calm while others panic. A mind that observes before reacting. A mind that seeks truth instead of emotional comfort. And perhaps that is why ancient leaders valued it so highly. Not because it made them wiser, but because it reminded them how wisdom begins. With stillness, with awareness, with clarity. If this lesson spoke to you, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who needs greater clarity in their life. Because sometimes the most powerful change is not learning something new. It is seeing clearly what was already there.